Welcome back, Irish fans. We're breaking down Braves Boys podcast, emergency podcast today as Notre Dame has landed an out of nowhere commitment from Brady Dunlap late on a Thursday night. Not the time you would think Notre Dame would get some huge news, but they do. They land a borderline top 100 player in my mind in Brady Dunlap, a guy who really rose this summer and a guy who Notre Dame did a great job with in the recruiting process. Had a final five of Rice, Colorado, Nebraska, Providence, Notre Dame. Got a Notre Dame offer just August 23rd, was on campus this weekend, and Notre Dame finds a way to win the recruitment. Seems like they really just blew Brady Dunlap out of the water with the way they recruited him. And nice win for the new staff with Hamlet Tibbs and Tony Weich and Anthony Solomon kind of combining for their first new player along with Ryan Greer and Pat Rogers and Mike Bray. So big time get for Notre Dame. And I don't use that super lightly. I don't say that in all the commitment podcasts, but Brady Dunlap is a guy who will certainly be a nice player for Notre Dame and is a guy who fits into this class really well. Consensus 4-star, top 150 player. I view him closer to the top 100. And I won't tell you that I'm higher on the guys Notre Dame gets than most. Marcus Burton and Brady Dunlap are kind of just examples of guys who I think are a little bit better than their ranking. But Notre Dame got in this recruitment late. It's a guy who they offered just a little under a month ago. Got an official visit from this weekend, right after they made the top five, and then it was really a done deal from there. Notre Dame made a great impression this weekend and found a way to land Brady Dunlap. They were in for him, I believe, last week. Got him on campus this weekend for the Cal game, and the rest was history. So really nice job by Mike Brain's staff with this recruitment, just getting in it, dominating the recruitment, and Notre Dame has landed a second consensus top 150 player in the class behind Marcus Burton, who fits really well with Dunlap because Dunlap is a versatile wing who's also skilled, but can run the pick and roll a little bit and is kind of just a safety blanket for a guy like Marcus Burton who wants to create and wants to kick it out to shooters. So looking into Dunlap's game, very skilled wing, and a lot of things offensively stand out. I think Dunlap's probably best off 1 to 2 bounces, but also can create a bit, and also is a guy who has some length and some ability to finish around the rim. I think he needs to get little bit stronger to be a true 3-level threat. I guess he is a 3-level threat, but to be a true effective 3-level scorer. But Dunlap had a really nice summer on the UIBL circuit, shot at 34% from three, playing with Bronny James and a few other really talented guards. So Dunlap has already got a little bit ahead of the development curve there as he's played with high-level players and has learned how to complement them. It's a guy who really thrives off the ball and can make plays, like I said, off 1 or 2 bounces, can really shoot it, and is skilled a little bit and can get to some spots and rise up and hit shots. Has a lot of length, quick release, and a very translatable skill set to an offense like Notre Dame, especially with a guy like Marcus Burton running the point. I'm not sure Dunlap is a day one contributor with Notre Dame's current roster structure next year. He is, but I do have to see kind of how they handle the transfer portal and where Notre Dame goes from here in terms of recruiting. But Dunlap is a guy who, if thrown into the fire next year, could come in and play a nice role. Still think he has to improve a little bit defensively, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. But it's a guy who went on the circuit this summer, had a huge impact, 16 points per game, 2.4 rebounds per game, 46% from the field, and 34% from behind the arc. Showed his ability to play off high-level ball handler, second or third option, and just showed off his ability to be a nice complementary piece to other good guards, and showed off an ability to get his own even when he had ball-dominant guards. Bronny James, I wouldn't say is necessarily a ball-dominant guard because such a great playmaker, but which certainly helped Dunlap and helped his stock. But just having ball handlers who are high-level players and need to get theirs while Dunlap is also getting his is pretty impressive. Dunlap's 6'7", has a nice touch on his jumper, has the length to get it off over contests. So certainly has a lot to like in terms of the length and size standpoint, also very skilled. I'll put some highlights up if the time is right, because Dunlap obviously committed out of nowhere. So this is not as staged as the Marcus Burton commitment show, but I think Dunlap is also a capable driver, has some room to grow as a finisher, has a few nice moves that he can use off the bounce. But like I said, probably best either in a catch and shoot spot off one or two bounces or off attacking a closeout. So Notre Dame secured themselves a really nice player here offensively, a nice complementary player who has the vibe of a winner and a guy who can just kind of slide into his role, can hit big shots, and can just kind of has that big time team feel like he will be at some point a good player on a good team defensively. I think there's a lot to like with Dunlap. I'm not sure he is a great defender at one position yet, but is agile enough and long enough and athletic enough to probably guard 1 through 4 against most ACC teams. Obviously, some teams in the league are going to play two bigs, and Dunlap's probably going to struggle with that. But to me, he's the perfect kind of small ball four for Mike Brey, or even with Mike Brey, kind of a bigger four as opposed to like a Dane Goodwin. But reminds me a lot of J.R. Knesny, but I think a little bit more polished than JR was at that stage. Maybe not as much off the dribble ability as JR had, but maybe better at kind of fitting into a role immediately, and maybe even a better just straight up shooter than JR. I think JR had a little bit more off the bounce, just because of kind of the situations he was put in, was able to show a little bit more. But Dunlap, I think, may even have a more applicable skill set coming in freshman year, may have a shorter learning curve than JR, but those are two players with pretty similar ceilings. I think JR might have a little bit higher of a ceiling, but Dunlap probably a higher floor. And Dunlap is a guy who is going to be really interesting to watch, kind of in a more ball dominant role at the high school level this season than he had in AAU. Obviously, in AAU, got the ball if he's scoring 16 points a game, but will be the guy at the high school level for Harvard Westlake. So a lot to like in Brady Dunlap's game. I do think there's some things to like defensively. Maybe not a completely polished defender yet, but is versatile enough to where he can get on the floor and guard someone, even if he's not a completely fundamentally polished defender. And this is going to be a young team that he's coming into more than likely, unless they just kill the transfer portal. So I think the defensive profile is good enough to get him on the floor early if he can hit shots and he can prove that he can play alongside guards that are high-level ball handlers and playmakers, which we've seen in the past. Marcus Burton is going to love having Brady Dunlap on his team, which I think is probably the best thing you can say about a wing who averaged 16 points a game, because that means he's not shot chucking. It means he's not forcing much. He's kind of just riding the wave and hitting shots when Burton needs him to hit shots, screening for Burton. Just kind of like a tight end in football is kind of how I view Brady Dunlap, as a guy who will put up quiet numbers, but will be there for his point guard when his point guard's in trouble, and will make plays when Notre Dame needs him to make plays the most. Maybe not going to be a flashy type of guy like JR was at this stage, where JR was putting guys on posters and hitting tough shots from beyond the arc. Brady Dunlap will have some nice moves here or there, but is mostly going to be a guy who kind of just goes in, plays his role, and just develops into a really nice player for Notre Dame. So Parker Friedrichsen is next for Notre Dame. Marco Jackson is also a guy that Notre Dame is in the fold for. Notre Dame made the top 7 for Marco Jackson, and we'll get an official visit, I believe, October 30th. So a lot to like on the recruiting front for Notre Dame after a lackluster at best summer. Notre Dame has quickly put together a respectable class, and they have the chance to take it to a little bit of another level if they can get Parker Friedrichsen and or Marco Jackson to have a huge opportunity to make a nice impression on Marco Jackson and Parker Friedrichsen. I know they've already made a strong impression on, and we'll be committing in a week or two, I believe. I think Notre Dame certainly is in the running there. Maybe not a lock, but Notre Dame certainly has a shot there. And Notre Dame has a chance to make this a really nice class with guys that complement each other as well. Last year, they did a nice job at that, and I'm going to drop a podcast in a few days on the 2023 class. But having a guy like Brady Dunlap, and then also one of the better shooters in the class in Parker Friedrichsen, should they land him, will be tremendous help for a young point guard in Marcus Burton, and tremendous help to whatever veterans they get in the transfer portal. So these guys aren't finished products yet. Uh, I don't think Brady Dunlap is a JJ Starling level recruit. There's a reason that he's ranked a little bit outside the top 100 for most services, although On3 does have him 78th, which I think is aggressive, but I don't necessarily completely disagree just because his skill set is so practical as a third, maybe second option. So kind of gives off the vibe of like a VJ Beacham who can be a really good player on a really good team, but may not get all the shine in future years. So Dunlap is a guy that you really like the game of, you really like the traits, and also has a higher ceiling than maybe a VJ Beacham had. Turns out, or I wouldn't be shocked if he turns out to be a guy who just completely rips off high level scoring performance after high level scoring performance when he's older. I think he has that kind of upside to where he can be a guy who can put it on the floor consistently, has a quick enough to release to where he can get it off and a long enough wingspan where he can get it off against most defenders. So I don't know that Notre Dame's offense is necessarily going to cater to that unless he really proves himself. But there is a world where Brady Dunlap turns into a one or two, the first or second scoring option for Notre Dame down the line. So a lot to be excited about with this commitment, and a lot to be excited about with this class that once looked like a lost class a few weeks ago. And now Notre Dame starting to make a push back at Armako Jackson, have a shot with Parker Friedrichsen, and obviously have landed two really nice commitments from Brady Dunlap and Marcus Burton, turning this into a much more respectable class and a class that they can work with in transfer portal recruiting, they can work with other recruits, and most importantly, can just fill Mike Bray's roster that will be absolutely depleted at the guard and wing position after this season. You're going to have J.R. Knesny, Tony Sanders, Alex Wade. That's about it. But really nice get for Notre Dame with Brady Dunlap. And obviously a lot to like with the recent addition of Hamlet Tibbs on staff and the staff's recruitment in general lately. They've really killed it. We're in the honeymoon phase for the kind of revamped staff. We're going to have to wait until they miss another recruitment or two post Hamlet Tibbs hire. But as of now, great start for Hamlet Tibbs and Ryan Greer on staff. But Brady Dunlap, like I said, awesome gift for Notre Dame. I don't want to make a ruling on who I think I'm the highest on in the class at the moment, just because it's such different players. And I would have liked to see more of Brady Dunlap than I did over the summer because Notre Dame got involved so late. But Burton and Dunlap are both guys that I'm very high on in terms of practical skill set and also just straight up talent levels. So lots to like, obviously, and big gift for Notre Dame. Now can they build on it with an Elmarko Jackson or a Parker Friedrichsen? We'll see in the next few weeks, and I'll certainly keep you guys updated on that. So I appreciate you guys watching. Emergency podcasts are not quite as formal as a say Marcus Burton commitment podcast, which I had known about a few days in advance and had time to kind of prepare. But this one I thought was pretty solid, and just gonna do my best to keep bringing good content. These are always tough when I don't have a heads up beforehand that this is in fact happening, but really nice gift for Notre Dame, and Notre Dame fans should be, I wouldn't say elated about how this class has panned out because they missed on plenty of top guys who they really wanted. But I do think the staff has done a nice job recovering, especially post Ryan Humphrey, who was their ace recruiter for a long time. Notre Dame staff has bounced back and landed some under the radar guys who didn't have the Duke, UNC, Virginia type offers, but had some nice offers. And to me, we're a little under recruited, especially Marcus Burton. But Notre Dame did a nice job in these two recruitments, and we'll see if they can close on one or two more prospects before the transfer portal and before the season. So thank you guys for watching. God bless. I appreciate each and every one of you tuning in if you're still here at midnight on a Thursday night to talk about Brady Dunlap, who is obviously a really nice player. But again, appreciate you guys watching, and again, nice weekend for Notre Dame and more to come. God bless. Thank you guys. Peace.